You do 100 things every single day without once asking yourself why. You shake someone's hand. You clink your glass before you drink. You say bless you when a stranger sneezes. You put your fork on the left and your knife on the right, and you'd feel strange doing it any other way. None of these things are natural. Every single one was invented by somebody, somewhere, for a reason that made sense at the time. And most of those reasons are stranger than you'd ever guess. Some involve plague, some involve poison. A few involve people genuinely trying not to get murdered at dinner. So today, let's pull on a few of these threads. Ordinary habits you've done your whole life without a second thought, and the odd, forgotten reasons behind them. I promise you'll never look at a handshake the same way again. Ready? Let's go. Start with the handshake, since we've mentioned it. You meet someone, you extend your right hand, you squeeze theirs briefly, you let go. Simple, universal. And its origins are pure suspicion. The most widely told explanation is that the handshake began as a way of proving you weren't armed. You extend an open right hand, the hand that would hold a sword, showing it's empty. The other person does the same. And the shaking motion? That was supposedly to dislodge any dagger hidden up the sleeve. Two strangers, each checking the other for weapons, and doing it so politely that 3,000 years later we're still doing it in job interviews. Now, historians will tell you the evidence for that story is thinner than most people assume, and there are ancient carvings showing handshakes that seem to be about sealing agreements rather than checking for knives. But here's what strikes me either way. The gesture is fundamentally about trust between two people who have reason not to trust each other. That much has always been true, and we still do it today, to close a deal, to make peace, to say, I'm not your enemy. The weapon check became a promise. Now, why do we clink glasses before drinking? There's a wonderfully grim story that gets told about this one, that in medieval times, people clinked cups hard enough to splash a little drink from one cup into another. Why? Because if your host had poisoned your wine, he'd now be drinking his own poison. Cheers, indeed. That story is almost certainly a myth. Historians find no real evidence for it, and honestly, if you truly suspected poison, a splash of wine wouldn't save you. The likelier origin is far more pleasant. A toast engages all five senses. You see the wine, smell it, taste it, feel it, but hearing was left out. The clink completes the experience. Sound joins the party. Which one do you believe? I'll be honest, I want the poison story to be true. It's so much better. But the truth is probably that we clink because it sounds like celebration. And that's a decent reason too.
Here's one you do without thinking, and its origin is genuinely dark. Why do we say bless you when someone sneezes? Nobody says bless you when you cough or hiccup. Only a sneeze gets a blessing. The most common explanation goes back to plague. During deadly outbreaks in Europe, a sneeze could be the first sign that someone had caught the sickness that would kill them within days. Saying God bless you was, quite literally, a small prayer for a person who might already be dying. Some versions of the story credit a pope with formalizing it during a plague outbreak. Other older beliefs held that a sneeze could let evil spirits in, or briefly shake the soul loose from the body, and the blessing was protection. So every time you casually say bless you to a coworker, you're echoing a phrase invented for people who are about to die of plague. Just something to think about at your next meeting. Now, why are wedding rings worn on the fourth finger of the left hand? This one is beautiful, and it's beautiful because it's wrong. The ancient Romans believed a vein ran directly from that particular finger to the heart. They even gave it a name, the vein of love. Put a ring on that finger, and you were circling the vein that led straight to your beloved's heart. Anatomically, this is nonsense. There is no special vein. Every finger has essentially the same plumbing. But the belief was so lovely that it stuck for 2,000 years, outliving the empire that invented it, outliving the anatomy that disproved it. Today, millions of people wear a ring on that finger for a reason that isn't true
and doesn't need to be. Sometimes a beautiful idea beats a correct one, and I think that's rather wonderful. Why do we blow out candles on a birthday cake? Think about how odd this is. Once a year, we set a small fire on top of food, sing at the person, and then have them blow their germs across it. Then everyone eats it. The candles likely come from ancient traditions of offerings and sacred flames, and the modern version was popularized by German birthday celebrations for children a few centuries ago. The smoke, it was believed, would carry your prayers or wishes up to the heavens. That's why you make a wish, and that's why you must blow all the candles out in one breath. A strong breath meant your wish was strong enough to reach the sky. We've kept the ritual and forgotten the reasoning entirely. Nobody thinks about smoke carrying prayers anymore. But we all still know. One breath, all the candles, don't tell anyone your wish. Ancient magic, reduced to a party rule. Here's a strange one. Why do buttons on men's and women's shirts go on opposite sides? You've probably never noticed, but they do. Men's buttons are on the right side, women's are on the left. Every shirt, every jacket, all over the world. The most repeated explanation is one of class. Wealthy women centuries ago didn't dress themselves. Their servants dressed them. And since most servants were right-handed, buttons were placed to be easy for the person facing the woman, not the woman herself. Men, meanwhile, dressed themselves, so their buttons were placed for their own right hand. Other explanations point to men needing to draw a sword with the right hand without catching the fabric, or to women holding infants on the left arm while nursing. Historians can't fully settle it, but look at what remains. Nearly every woman on earth today, most of whom have never had a servant in their lives, still fastens buttons that were arranged for the convenience of a maid 400 years ago. The servant is long gone. The button stayed. Why do we knock on wood? You say something optimistic. I've never had a car accident, and immediately you're rapping your knuckles on the nearest table like a superstitious peasant. And you know it's silly, and you do it anyway. The old belief, found in various forms across Europe, held that spirits lived in trees, protective ones in some tellings. Touching or knocking on wood was a way of calling on that spirit for protection, or thanking it, or perhaps making enough noise to prevent mischievous spirits from overhearing your boast and deciding to take you down a peg. The remarkable thing here isn't the origin, it's the survival. You do not believe in tree spirits. Nobody you know believes in tree spirits. And yet, when you tempt fate out loud, your hand still moves toward the nearest piece of wood. That's how deep these things run. Why are school buses yellow? This is one of my favorites because, unlike the others, we know the exact answer, and it's not ancient at all. In 1939, an American educator named Frank Sear organized a conference to standardize school buses, which at the time came in every color imaginable. The group settled on a specific shade, officially National School Bus Glossy Yellow, for a very practical reason. It's the color the human eye detects fastest in peripheral vision, especially in the dim light of early morning and at dusk. Black lettering on that yellow is easier to read than any other combination. So the yellow school bus isn't tradition, it's engineering. Somebody did the math on how human eyeballs work at 6 in the morning, and the answer was that shade of yellow. Every school bus you have ever seen is the result of one committee, one decision, and the physics of your own retina. Why do we tip our hats or nod in greeting? Because of armor. Medieval knights in full helmets would raise their visors to show their face, proving identity and peaceful intent. That visor lift became a hat tip, which became a nod. The armor disappeared centuries ago. The gesture remains, worn smooth by time like a stone in a river. Why do we cover our mouths when we yawn? Politeness now, but the original reason was pure fear. Many cultures believed the soul could escape through an open mouth,
or that evil spirits could enter. Covering up wasn't manners, it was self-defense. Why do we throw rice at weddings? Fertility. Rice, grain, seeds, symbols of abundance and many children, thrown at couples for thousands of years. Today, most people throw flower petals or bubbles and would be horrified if you told them the ritual is essentially a public wish for the couple to reproduce as prolifically as possible. Why do we say hello when answering the phone? This one is almost comically recent. When the telephone was invented, nobody knew what to say. Alexander Graham Bell championed Ahoy like a ship.
Thomas Edison suggested hello, which at the time was not really a greeting at all, more a shout to get attention, like, hey there. Edison won. And that's why, when your phone rings today, you answer with a word popularized by a man who wanted to make sure the other person was paying attention. We came within a hair of all answering the phone by shouting, Ahoy! I genuinely wish that had won. Why do we shake our head for no and nod for yes? It seems like it must be hardwired into us, but it isn't. In some parts of the world, the meanings flip entirely, and a nod can mean no. One popular theory suggests the headshake begins in infancy. A baby who has had enough milk turns its head away from the breast or bottle, side to side. Refusal, learned before language. And the nod? A small bow, an acceptance, a lowering of the head toward the thing offered. If that's true, then every yes and no you've ever given traces back to how you behaved before you could speak a word.
Why is a wedding dress white? You'd assume this goes back forever, that brides have always worn white. They haven't. For most of history, women simply wore their best dress, whatever color it was, and red and blue were popular choices. Then, in 1840, Queen Victoria married in a white gown. It was widely reported, widely imitated, and within a generation, white had become the color of weddings across the Western world. Not ancient tradition, a royal fashion choice that went viral before anything went viral. Why do we have a best man at a wedding? The old story, and it's a rough one, holds that in some early European traditions, if a man intended to marry a woman whose family objected, he'd bring along his strongest, most capable friend to help him take her, and to hold off her relatives during the ceremony. The best man meant the best swordsman. Historians treat this as more folklore than fact, but the role stuck, the groom's most trusted friend, standing right beside him, ready for trouble. These days, the trouble is usually just the speech. Why do we cut a cake at all? And why does the couple feed each other a bite? Because the cake was originally a symbol of fertility and prosperity, and in ancient Rome, a loaf was sometimes broken over the bride's head to bless her with abundance. Be grateful for the modern version. Somewhere along the line, thankfully, someone decided that eating the cake was nicer than being hit with it. Why do funerals involve wearing black? Black as mourning color goes far back. Romans wore dark togas to mourn, but there's a chilling layer to it too. In some traditions, dark clothing was believed to make mourners harder for the spirit of the dead to recognize, so it couldn't follow them home. You weren't just showing grief, you were hiding, in plain sight, from someone you love. Why do we bring flowers to the sick and the dead? Beauty, yes. Comfort, yes. But there's a far more practical origin. Smell. Before modern medicine and refrigeration, sick rooms and funerals had a powerful odor, and heaps of fragrant flowers were the only thing that made the room bearable. The gesture of love we perform today began as an air freshener, and knowing that doesn't make it less kind, it makes it more human. Why do we count 1, 2, 3 before lifting something heavy together? Coordination, obviously. But notice that we've all silently agreed to lift on 3, and nobody was ever taught this. Notice too that in some countries, people lift after 3, which is why an international group of people trying to move a sofa is one of the funniest things you will ever witness in your life. Why do we put candles on a cake, but a single knife in the cake? Why do we wear a white coat to be a doctor,
a black robe to be a judge, a gown to graduate.
Because every profession that wants to be believed dresses like the past. Uniform is authority borrowed from history. The judge's robe, the graduate's cap, these are medieval clothes that we still put on today because deep down we trust the look of tradition. Nobody decided this. It just happened, and we've all quietly agreed to keep pretending. So look at what we've got here. A handshake that checks for daggers, a blessing invented for the dying, a ring circling a vein that doesn't exist, buttons arranged for servants who left 4 centuries ago, knocking on wood for spirits nobody believes in, and a bus painted the exact yellow your eyes see fastest at dawn. Here's what strikes me most about all of it. We are surrounded, every day, by the fossils of old ideas, habits that outlived their reasons, rituals that lost their meaning and survived anyway, purely because our parents did them, and theirs before that. We are all walking museums of forgotten logic.
And that's kind of beautiful, isn't it? Every time you clink a glass or shake a hand, you're performing a tiny ceremony designed by someone long dead for reasons you've never known. You're keeping their idea alive without even trying. So now it's your turn. What's something you do every single day that you've never questioned? Is there a habit in your family, your town, your country that nobody can explain? Put it in the comments. I read every one, and the strangest ones might just end up in the next video. Until then, keep asking why.